All right, we'll bring the meeting to order. And just as a reminder, meetings are live streamed and recorded and available on the internet by visiting the Town of Parry Sound website at www.parrysound.ca. Are there any additions, prioritization of the agenda? No? Okay. And just a note, there was no closed meeting before the open meeting, so. May I have a mover and seconder for the agenda, please? Councillor McCann, Councillor Bachman. The council agenda for October 1st, 2019 be approved as circulated. All in favor? Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? I'm seeing none. Okay, so we have two public meetings tonight, and so, ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to take a few minutes to hold a public meeting to hear any interested persons with regard to two zoning bylaw amendments under Section 34 of the Planning Act. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Keith, Councillor Horn. We do now adjourn the regular meeting and declare the public meeting open. All in favor? That's carried. Ms. Johnson, can you explain how the public was notified of zoning bylaw amendment Z1912-11 Miller Street, John Jackson Planner Incorporated, on behalf of Brian Moore?
Certainly, notice was given by prepaid first-class mail to the required agencies and property owners within 120 meters, posted on the property, and was placed on the town's website.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Algie, can you explain the purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment?
Certainly. The applicant has requested to amend the C1 zone and Committee of Adjustment application A11-1 to permit an additional dwelling unit within a proposed building. The lands are currently permitted 10 residential units between two buildings and is now proposed to have 11 between the two. The property is described as Lot 4 on the east side of Miller Street on Plan 7, part of Lot 29, Concession 1, formerly in the Township of McDougall, but now in the Town of Parry Sound. Municipal address is 11 Miller Street.
Okay, thank you. At this time, does anyone wish to speak in favor of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? If so, please come forward, identify yourself by name and your address.
Evening, Council. John Jackson, representing Mr. Moore's interests in town. Mr. Moore, as you know, has a number of properties that he has tenanted. This particular property has been a converted dwelling for many years. A number of years ago, he got a Committee of Adjustment approval for an additional dwelling. He's about to renovate it, but found that he has capacity to add one more dwelling to what he's permitted to do, rather than go back to the committee and pile on a further variance application. We have applied for a rezoning to allow for one more unit over his entitlement. We have shown one parking spot for each of the total of 11 units, although I can tell you that at most his tenants, there have been no more than two actual tenants that drive automobiles, so there shouldn't be a parking issue in this instance. So again, it falls within a hot button issue of affordable housing. I think it's something that planners of all stripes can support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? No. At this time, does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? Nope. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Algie, have there been any letters received as a result of this notice?
No, there's not, Your Worship.
None? Okay. Thank you, and that concludes the first zoning bylaw amendment. Ms. Johnson, can you explain how the public was notified of the second zoning bylaw amendment, being Z1913, 17 Miller Street, Walsh / Ben Pritchard Law Corporation?
So again, notice was given by prepaid first-class mail to the required agencies and property owners within 120 meters, posted on the property, and was placed on the town's website.
Thank you. Mr. Elgie, can you explain the purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment?
The applicant has requested to amend the C1 zone to permit a basement apartment. The bylaw requires that accessory units be above or behind commercial units. It's described as Lot 7 on the east side of Miller Street on Plan 7.
Thank you. At this time, does anyone wish to speak in favor of this proposed zoning bylaw amendment? If so, again, please come forward, identify yourself by name and your address. Okay. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to this proposed zoning bylaw amendment? No? All right. Thank you. Mr. Elgie, have there been any letters received as a result of this notice?
No, there has not.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the second zoning bylaw amendment. The public should contact staff or check the town's website to see when these amendments will come back for a decision. Council, at its discretion, may approve either of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments, and if so, it must either circulate notices of passing of the bylaws or give notice in the local press. Objections to the passing of the amendments will be received by the clerk within 20 days from the date such notice is given, which objections will be forwarded to the local planning appeal tribunal. If an appeal is submitted and the appellant has not provided council with an oral or written submission before the passing of the bylaw, the local planning tribunal may choose to dismiss the appeal. Thank you. And may I have a mover and seconder to declare the public meeting closed? Councillor Borneman and Councillor McCann. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay. May I have a mover and seconder for the first set of minutes, please? Councillor Keith and Councillor Horn. The minutes of the regular council meeting held September 17th, 2019 be approved as circulated. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor? That's carried. Mover and seconder for the special council committee meeting. Councillor Borneman, Councillor Backman. The minutes of the special council meeting held September 17th, 2019 be approved as circulated. Any discussion on the minutes from that meeting? No? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Questions of staff? Councillor Keith and then Councillor McCann.
Yes, I have a question. I believe it's for Mr. Brown. I've noticed, Mr. Brown, the CNR track at William Street there, it seemed to be, one day there was a lot of CNR staff around looking at the bridge there, and the next day it seemed the road was closed, I believe, today for part of the day. What's happening there?
Through your worship, CN contacted me about a week ago saying that they require some track repairs on and to the, shall we say, north of the bridge. So they requested a series of road closures today, tomorrow, and a short one Thursday and a short one on Friday, because they only have a window of opportunity to get up on that bridge to replace the tracks. So you'll see a flurry of activity, hopefully tomorrow. There was some activity today, but you'll see more tomorrow. But they are doing some repairs to the tracks, not to the bridge.
Yes, Councillor Keith.
For clarity, so is it possible the repairs to the tracks are going as far as Cascade Street?
Through your worship, no, it's shy of Cascade Street. It's past Cascade and just before the bridge on William Street.
Okay, the reason I asked was I noticed tonight when I was waiting to go down the hill on Cascade, right at the tracks, I noticed the track on the right-hand side, it seemed to be, there was a lot of movement in it, and I don't remember seeing that before, so I wondered if that had anything to do with it. Okay, thank you.
I'd also mentioned to Mr. Brown some time ago about that little sinkhole that's appeared or whatever there just before the tracks going down the hill too on the right hand side, so I hope they do something about that. Councillor McCann.
Thank you. This is for Mr. Brown as well. I've had a few people in the area of Meadow, Beaver Street, Queen Street area mention the presence of a rather unpleasant odor. I wonder, is it coming from the station at the corner of, or down at the end of Beaver Street, and is there an issue there? I'm just wondering what I can tell these people about the pleasant smell.
Through your worship, this is the first I've heard of this particular problem. My suggestion would be to have them contact the town Public Works Department directly to make sure that we can track it. We have not received any complaints or any concerns about that. My only comment would be that it could be coming from the existing wastewater treatment plant. It would not be coming from that particular pumping station because that takes a high volume of usage and doesn't have enough time to create an odor because it's always running. But it's probably coming down from the wastewater plant.
Oh, okay, yeah, these comments were made just today, actually were brought to my attention, so this is fairly new.
Again, it's news to me, so I'd be happy to investigate it further if I had more information from them.
Okay. Any further questions of staff? No? Okay. Correspondence, Ms. Johnson.
Okay, there are 7 items of correspondence. The first 3 are related. The first from Madeline and Albert Archibald, and the second from Dave and Ann McLennan, and the third from Dave and Sheila Ord, all residents of Georgian Bay Avenue and all write with concerns regarding water pooling in front of the property and flooding of their homes, known as the Cedars on Georgian Bay Avenue. All suggest that it is caused by inadequate drainage at the road, and they are therefore requesting that the town include in the 2020 budget funds to correct this. This is the subject also of deputations this evening. This letter was circulated to Mayor and Council and referred to the Director of Public Works. The fourth letter is from Susan Hersina, the Executive Director of the Parry Sound Downtown Business Association, notifying the town of the resignation of Dan DeNicolo from the Downtown Business Association Board of Directors. This letter has been circulated to Mayor and Council and filed. Formal removal by council resolution of the appointment will come to a future council meeting. The fifth letter is from Hector Liebert. He's the Poppy Chairman of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 117. The letter is regarding a number of issues around Remembrance Day activity, including on November 2nd, Tag Day, flying of the Poppy flag at the town office, and the November 11th ceremonies at the Cenotaph. The first 2 issues are covered by a resolution under item 8.1 on the agenda. And the last 2 letters are also regarding related issues. The second to last is from Sky Panapek, the project manager of Georgian Bay Native Nonprofit Homes Incorporated, and the last letter from Howard Wesley, the general manager of Parry Sound Affordable Housing Development Corporation. In identifying access to housing funding that both organizations have, the writers are proposing partnerships to build housing alongside the proposed wellness center and pool project. These letters were circulated to Mayor and Council with an acknowledgement letter of receipt sent. These letters will also be forwarded to the Wellness Center and Pool Committee, which is tentatively scheduled to have its first meeting very soon.
Thank you very much. We come now to the deputations and presentations portion of tonight's council meeting. Deputations are held to a maximum of 10 minutes each, including questions of clarification from council. Presentations are also subject to the same rules of conduct as members of council, that no one shall speak disrespectfully or use offensive words or insulting expressions against any member of council, staff, or another member of the public. Please speak clearly and approximately about 1 foot from the microphone so that everyone can hear what you have to say. And we have 3 registered deputations tonight. First is Madeline and Albert Archibald. They're not here? Okay. The second is Butch Foland. Welcome. So just click the little purple button there and we're good.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. My name is Butch Folland, and my wife and I are the proud owners of a townhouse on Georgian Bay Avenue. and I am here tonight to ask you for your help. For those that aren't familiar with that area, the Cedars consist of 15 units, all built on a concrete slab, sharing a common roof and backing onto the fitness trail and Wabano Beach. Driving by, you'll notice the pride of ownership that is shown. It is very evident. The lawns are neatly mowed, the gardens are well tended and beautiful. And for years now, the independence of this group as seniors has shown. Why? Because individually, they have spent hours and lots of money trying to defeat a pooling water problem that plagues 11 of the 15 homes here every year. During that time, they have not asked for help as far as I've been able to understand, and they've tried to fix that problem themselves. But now, everybody's aging, and with their age showing, not all are wanting or willing to dig trenches and lay pipes to fight this constant property or problem on their property. As far as me, I'm a new resident. I've just bought this townhouse, and my personal story about the building is that during heavy rains, water lands on my roof, runs down the eaves, goes down a downpipe, and then flows into a pipe which is buried under my postage stamp-sized front lawn. That's the normal way it's supposed to happen. As the rain continues, the water backs up this pipe, spills out onto the cobblestone walkway leading to my front entrance, and there it pools. Because there's not enough slope at that area to direct the water away from the building. And the winters are worse. The ground is frozen, as we all know, and less absorbent. This year, my home flooded in March because of water pooling. The baseboards pulled away, drapes in Chesterfield water stained, and our rug destroyed. And I am not alone. As I said, 11 of the 15 owners have also reported water damage over the years. This is not something that has just happened. It's been going on for a long time. My role, as I mentioned earlier tonight, is to ask council for help to install a storm drainage pipe running the length of our properties and a link from this to each townhouse on the block, and to make it a priority. This alone won't solve the problem completely, but it certainly will be a step in the right direction. My wife and I normally winter in BC, and this is my last year to do so, and we plan to be in Parry Sound for the winters from here on in. This year, my last year to protect my property, I've filled sandbags, placed them around my front door to stop the water coming in. I've sealed all nooks and crannies to try to prevent the seepage into the house. I'm not happy to have to hire a contractor to shovel my pathway to my front door because I'm not there, and the water does, which corrects, I hope, the water not pooling and flood me out again. Last winter, several owners were out at midnight. They were sweeping water away from their door to stop it from flooding their home. And we and they are way too old to be doing that sort of stuff. Several seniors there have spent hard-earned retirement money putting heat tapes to try to prevent the water from flooding. Others have paid contractors to dig up their front lawn, remove soil, and then put the lawn back to try to correct the grade. One owner has been quoted $8,000 to take up her cobblestone walkway to lower the slope. That shouldn't happen. Others have placed PVC piping underground to run the length of the driveway in hopes of diverting water from the front door. There's a lot of effort that's gone into this, and not all of it very successful. I recently phoned Peter Brown for advice, and during that conversation, he offered to drop in. A couple of days later, Peter visited me on site, and let me tell you, he is a ray of sunshine. Sorry. He had done his research prior, and after seeing the properties firsthand, he said, yes, the answer was to install a storm drain in front of our townhouses and to link the townhouses to that drain. That should take the water away. He said that he would include that particular proposal in his upcoming budget, and I'm going to hold him to that. He also remarked that he could see that the grade was a problem on most of the units. As I said, my role here tonight is to also to ask council to okay Mr. Brown's proposal. I know funding is tough, but this is a priority, I feel, and the seniors on this road feel. They have been waiting, working patiently for a way around this problem for years. And as one senior remarked to me, that he would like to see this problem solved within his lifetime, and fighting it not to be the reason to end it. Mr. Mayor, this is urgent. Let's see shovels in the ground in 2020 or before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just go on just for a minute? I just want to add something else that's happened to me. As a newcomer to Parry Sound, I've shopped here for years, but I've never had anything to do with anything else other than the retail outlets and the dentists and the lawyers and that sort of stuff. But buying this property, I had to walk into the town hall for the first time. The reception was terrific. The people on that front desk bent over backwards to help me, and that whole little department in reception managed to get the information I wanted on how to open a water bill, how to do a tax bill. They sold me a water meter, which is something that has to go onto the townhouse. The information was perfect. And not only that, as I started to inquire about this pooling problem, I ended up in the building department downstairs of this building. And there I asked somebody who I forget their name if they could show me the original architect's drawings that Jacqueline submitted to the department for the permit to start building. He went out of his way to find that stuff, and once we got it, he unrolled it and then took time to explain to me what I was looking at. I didn't get a lot of information from that, but the service was terrific. And I wanted to find out where the pipes ran on Georgian Bay Avenue. So I went to the pipe department. Ashley, I think her name was. In 10 minutes, she gave me a map of where all the pipes were. It's unbelievable, the service that the staff here offer. And Rebecca, who fielded 3 or 4 different phone calls from me and my wife to explain how I go through this process to be sitting here in this chair to do that. You guys have got a good act going here. I must admit, it makes somebody new that comes into this area really feel comfortable. For that, I thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. In light of this, is there a mover and seconder to have Mr. Brown do the engineering costs so that we can put this in the budget for 2020? Councillor Keith and Councillor Burden, any discussion on that? All in favor? That's carried. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I'd be curious to know where those pipes go now underground. The eaves troughs go into. We don't want to go there? No. All right. Our next deputation is Margaret Gain. Margaret, welcome.
My name is Margaret Gain, and I live at 12 Georgian Bay Avenue. I too would like to thank the mayor and members of council for the opportunity to address this drainage issue tonight. Some of what you're going to hear is going to be quite repetitive now. We stole some of my thunder, but anyway, I am one homeowner representing myself. However, I am one of 15 homeowners in the Cedars project who are experiencing serious drainage problems. You have 15 homes in one block, and all except for perhaps 1 or 2 do have experience with this problem. That's 15 homes, 1 block, all in danger of flooding. This is not caused because we live by a river or a large body of water. We do live next to Georgian Bay, but that is not our problem. The problem is lack of proper drainage from our properties to the street. There is no place for the water to go except in our front doors. 15 homes, one block. This is not a new problem, rather one that has existed for years. I have lived in my townhouse for 5 years. To date, I have not had a flood, but only because of extreme measures taken. For example, the first year, I was out at 1:30 in the morning shoveling water from my front door. I'm 81, live alone, and have no family living here to call on for help. But I shouldn't have to do that, nor should anyone. That year, I happened to be the only one in 5 townhouses that was there at the time. I shudder to think what would have happened should I have slipped and fallen. Who would have known or heard me at that hour? This in the middle of a Parry Sound winter. Last year, my neighbor and I, along with others, spent all day and until midnight scooping water. This was in March. By midnight, the rain had stopped, and so could we. But it wouldn't have mattered. At that point, I was so tired I couldn't continue. Had the rain continued, it would have gone into my front door because I was too exhausted to do any more. We bought having no idea that this problem existed. We were not in our home very long before neighbors came over asking, "Are you aware of the water problems?" Total surprise to us. I later found out how many of our neighbors had and do experience this problem. I have experienced this problem each and every winter since. In a conversation with a former tenant, we discovered they had experienced flooding 3 times in 2 years, and this was even when using sandbags to stop the flow of water. Feeling we as homeowners bear a certain responsibility to do everything possible to correct the problem, we set out to do just that. My son and I went to the municipal office hoping to see the plans for our buildings. In particular, my son wanted to know if our buildings were built on a slab only or on a slab on footings. He felt that knowing which would better enable us to correct the problem. Unfortunately, they were unable to locate the plans the time we were in. So this is what we have done as homeowners. We had our entire walk dug up and replaced, hoping to improve the drainage. We replaced the pipe which a former owner had installed, and also installed a heating cable to prevent ice from forming, and thus to allow the water to flow more easily. We are now in the process of installing heating cables on the roof to prevent ice jams, which might, if it happened, exacerbate the problem. The contractor who did our work for the sidewalk did approach City Hall to see if they would allow us to go underneath the sidewalk and to drain onto the street. We were told no, we couldn't do that, and we did abide by that decision. I also, once each winter, have all of the snow removed from my front lawn, another added expense. I too recently had a conversation with Peter Brown, Director of Public Works. We had a very nice conversation, and he understands we're simply trying to bring forth an issue and trying to resolve a very serious problem. Peter acknowledged our problem and promised to add money in the 2020 works budget to address this problem. One homeowner has come up with what we believe is a solution. Install a pipe underneath the sidewalk and allow the homeowners to tap into this pipe. The water would then flow into the new storm sewer on Prospect Street. The existing sidewalk is in bad shape and desperately in need of replacement, so this would be an excellent time to do this. I am here tonight requesting council to add money to your 2020 budget to fix this problem, a problem which has plagued the homeowners for years. We, the homeowners, feel we have done everything possible to fix this problem without success. We need your help. We need money assigned to the problem. In other words, we need action. Now is the time. Please add money to your 2020 budget to address this very serious drainage problem. I do have one other request, if I could. I would like my letter and all these other letters from the homeowners to be tabled and brought back at budget time. We cannot lose sight of this problem. Thank you for your time tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No? Nope. I think you got one question answered already.
Pardon?
You got one question answered already.
I have one question.
You had one question answered already.
Oh, yes, I did.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
We have about 5 minutes left. If there's anyone that wishes to make a further deputation. Nope. Okay, thank you. Then we will go to reports. And I think it's Councillor McCann tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council and staff, and people here in the gallery and those watching at home. On Wednesday, September 25th, I attended the Belvedere Heights Board of Management monthly meeting along with Councillor Borneman. A number of administrative housekeeping matters were handled, including receipt of the latest period financial statements. On Thursday evening, September 26th, I attended the Parry Sound District Museum monthly board meeting. The installation of the model train is in the works. The remaining pieces arrived on September 25th, and the actual installation will begin October 1st. It's expected to take about 9 days. There is a special event this month, an historic fashion show fundraiser coming up on Saturday, October 19th at 5 o'clock at the Parry Sound Curling Club. The proceeds will support the E. Roy Smith Gallery renovation at the museum. And in the months and weeks and months ahead, our board will be conducting a strategic planning session. We've been updating our financial procedures and museum policies and the like. The museum is also planning a special event to show off some unique display cases we received thanks to the Trillium funding, which allowed us to do that. We received and accepted the Treasurer's report, and we continue to receive donations of items and articles. Probably a good time at this point to bring up a bit of a conundrum we have, and that is that we're running out of storage space, and we've always been happy to receive donations. What we'd like to do is take a closer look and follow more closely the criteria that meets our collections mandate. Duplicates, items too large or fragile for the museum to properly care for and preserve may not be accepted at this time, but please, if you have questions or donations, do get in touch with the museum and we'll try our best to accommodate. Also, our manager has been putting together an operational plan and the 2020 budget in preparation to approaching area municipalities for funding assistance. So there's lots happening there. On Friday, I attended the District of Parry Sound Municipal Association Fall 2019 meeting hosted by the Township of Carling in its brand new community center. Mayor Mike Conover welcomed everyone with his opening remarks. A number of highlights at the during the day. We had an update from Phenom. We had an address by MPP Parry Sound Muskoka's Norm Miller, also from Dr. Shirako from the North Bay District Health Unit. The North Bay and Parry Sound District unit. Gail Armstrong made a presentation. She's an outreach coordinator. She talked about the dog therapy program and vulnerable person database in association with Parry Sound Victim Services, and that was rather interesting. A number of other updates as well that we received from various guests, including a special guest speaker for the afternoon was Becky Pollock, Executive Director of the Georgian Bay Biosphere Reserve. She talked about their programs and the plastic filters initiative, and we've heard about that here at council from time to time. So she had a really nice presentation, and we thank her for that. Finally, I'd like to add, I would like to add this. I would like to offer condolences to the McEwen family. Bob McEwen, or officially known as Robert, passed away on last Saturday. He was 79 years old. He died in Sudbury. You may not recognize the name, but the family business downtown, the Town Trading Post, has been there for years. And I got to know Bob about a number of years ago, and always liked getting into conversations with Bob. He's a real thinker. So condolences to Gail and to Karen and Stephen and their families at this time. And that is my report.
Thank you. Councillor Backwell.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council, and everybody in attendance this evening. I did attend the Municipal District meeting on September 27th, and as Doug stated, it was full of guest speakers and different types of workshops that we were able to learn about some of the initiatives. I'd just like to mention one of the speakers, Lisa Cook, the team leader from Employment and Learning Services at the YMCA of Simcoe Muskoka. She did speak that there was still a lot of funding available for youth job placements, so I'd just like to make note that if there are businesses out there that are still interested in hiring students, to please reach out to the YMCA. And that is my report for this evening.
Thank you. Councillor Horn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On September 9th, I attended the Chamber Board meeting, and happy to report the new Executive Director is Lori Delnett. And to date, there is now 286 Chamber members. On September 11th, I attended the Committee of Adjustment meeting for the town of Parry Sound, and one application was heard and approved of. And on September 23rd, I attended the Parry Sound Area Planning Board meeting. So there was consent approvals for the town of Parry Sound, Municipality of Whitestone, Township of Carling, and there was 4 consent applications approved for the town of McDougall. We did have one certificate of validation for the town of Parry Sound, which I think is on this evening's agenda, and we had one withdrawn consent from the municipalities of McDougall and Carling. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keith.
Well, I'd just say that Councillor Horn has just repeated what I've already done, so I'm finished. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Burden.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a very brief report. I haven't had any meetings to attend since the last council meeting. I did, however, have the honor of attending the flag raising ceremony to represent the mayor and council and declare Saturday, September the 28th, 2019 as British Home Children Day in Parry Sound. The ceremony took place here at the town office on the morning of September 27th and was attended by several descendants of British home children. So thanks to those who come out for this event, as well as thanks to Mary Ann King Wilson, who spearheaded the event. And that is my report.
Thank you. Councillor Borneman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. Since we last met, I've attended at the airport a number of times. Work on the roadway for this phase of construction is basically complete. Ground clearing and grubbing is well underway. We have kind of run into a bit of a roadblock with Hydro 1, surprise. And they've not yet issued us a electrical hookup diagram that meets their approval. As Councillor McCann mentioned, I too attended the board meeting at Belvedere on September 25th. September 27th, I attended the Parry Sound District Municipal Association meeting. A couple things that, well, one thing in particular that council should be aware of and the people of the area should be aware of. Dr. Chirico's statement basically said that the District Health Board is facing some pretty significant financial pressures due to rollbacks by the province. board has determined that this year, for the upcoming 2020 year, municipalities are unlikely to see any significant increase in costs. They'll tap into the reserves in order to do that. If provincial policy continues its current path in 2021, costs to the municipalities will go up in the order of 39%. Make no mistake about it, efficiencies at Queen's Park are going to cost the rest of us money. As Councillor McCann mentioned, Ms. Pollock made a very impassioned presentation in the afternoon on behalf of the biosphere. I was surprised after to learn from most of our neighbors to the east that they had little or no knowledge of the biosphere. They'd never met with her previously. She's agreed to continue to attend these functions spring and fall and provide regular updates as to what they're up to. I've been in the community center a number of times in the past couple of weeks. The ice is in, the building looks terrific, it's clean. You'd almost think it was brand new. And I'm told that the ice quality is very high because of the equipment. And Ms. McNamara assures me that there are energy savings because of the upgrades that we've made in the building as well. And that's my report for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Maybe we should be having a conversation with the health unit to find out what's going on, because I believe that they were paying at least, it was a 75-25 split before, and they're going to a 70-30 split. And if they're taking from reserves, really they shouldn't be. That would be my guess, because the province did say that if anyone had an increase of any more than 10%, then I believe they were going to step in. So they should be utilizing that and not throwing that burden back onto the municipalities if that's the case. So maybe we could have staff reach out to them so we can have that conversation to find out where this is really sitting. Is council in favor of that? Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Borneman.
Just before you continue on that line, I think I found myself in the majority when the good doctor listed the programs that they offer in the community. I was surprised at the breadth and scope of the programming that is offered at this point in time.
Yeah, and it's all needed. Like, I mean, it touches the core of the people in our community. So that's good. Okay, so if we can have staff do that, that would be really appreciated. So my report, council, staff, and public. Saturday, September 21st, I presented a certificate to Leonard and Gail Chowns, who celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. And then Saturday, the 21st in the evening, attended the official reopening of Mauricio's Pizza, which is now located further out Bow Street. And it was a really, really good night. And the pizza was really good. So, yeah. September 26th and 27th, I attended the AMO board and executive meetings in Toronto. And there was also a retirement reception for Pat Benini, who retired as executive director. And it was a good night with a truly a great celebration for a lady that has had an amazing career. So, and September 29th, I attended a concert put on by the Elmer Eisler Singers as part of the Toronto Concert Series. The event was held at Eglinton St. George's United Church. The concert was in celebration of the Festival of the Sound's 40th anniversary, and the Elmer Eisler Singers are also celebrating their 40th anniversary as well. The composition was commissioned by the Festival of the Sound after a conversation between Lydia Adams, artistic director of the Eisler and conductor of the Eisler Singers, and James Campbell, the artistic director of the Festival of the Sound. His composition, The Sound, a musical evocation of Georgian Bay, was composed by Eric Robertson and the text by Gary Michael Dahl. It was first performed by the Eisler Singers at this past summer opening night for the Festival of the Sound. The composer and writer were both at the performance in Toronto on Sunday, and they made a major gift of this composition to the Festival of the Sound. So that was truly, truly special or whatever for this. I was invited to speak at the event and talk about the value of the Festival of Sound and its impact on the local economy. And I certainly also include an invite to anyone that was there that hasn't been to Parry Sound before to please get up here and enjoy themselves. I also recognized Eleanor Daly, who was in attendance, and one of her compositions was also performed as well at the concert. So Parry Sound was certainly in the spotlight in Toronto on Sunday, which was really, really good. Anyway, that's my report. So, on with the agenda. So item 8.1, moved by Councillor Burden, seconded by Councillor Borneman, that upon the request of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 117, Council authorizes November 2nd, 2019 as the Legion's annual Tag Day in Parry Sound, and that the poppy flag be flown at the town office from October 25th to November 11th. All in favor? That's carried. Uh, 911A, moved by Councillor Borneman, seconded by Councillor McCann. Council accepts the quotation from Fowler Construction for granular A gravel in the amount of $16.10 per ton, including taxes for winter 2019 to spring 2021 term, this quotation being the only one received. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Item 911B, moved by Councillor Borneman, seconded by Councillor Burden. Council accepts the quotation from Fowler Construction to supply, deliver, blend, and stack winter sand in the amount of $18.08 per ton, including taxes, for the winter 2019 spring 2021 term, this quotation being the only one received. Any discussion? Councillor Borneman.
Mr. Brown, for many years we've had a number of bidders on these types of tenders. Is there a particular reason that we're seeing some of the smaller firms no longer active in this area?
Your Worship, that's a very good question. We have no idea. We sent them the RFPs directly, as we have in the past, but for some reason they did not choose to bid this year.
Anything further? You look like you want to say something, Councillor Borneman, so.
Well, I'm just hopeful that this isn't sort of, sort of a little bit of an undercut this year and take the competition out of the market and prices rise in the future more quickly than they might otherwise. It kind of scares me when I see local businesses not interested in bidding on things like this.
Okay. All right. Okay. All in favor? That's carried. Nine one two. Moved by Councillor Horn, seconded by Councillor Bachman, that Council award the tender for snow plowing all 10 municipal parking lots and facilities to Schlager Incorporated in a combined total of $743.53, including HST per plowing event. This tender being the lowest overall of 3 tenders received. Any discussion? Councillor McCann.
This would be for Mr. Brown. In reading this particular report, I noticed that there was some dialogue in terms of making a choice between giving one company complete business or having two or more involved. And so two questions. One, we're going with a 2-year contract this time around and, rather than 1 year. And what is the reason for that? Is that normal?
Through your worship, for the past 4 or 5 years, we've had a 2-year contract.
Okay, and so I just wonder if it would be helpful to spread some of the business around. I'm wondering if we put all our eggs in one basket, what if this one particular company has a breakdown or of some sort or another, or a labor problem. I'm not suggesting or inviting trouble, but I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be more prudent for us to have more than one company provide these services.
Through your worship, we found that having one particular company do the entire job is well, for starters, it's economies of scale. It is less expensive for the municipality to do it this way. The second thing is it's a lot easier for staff to deal with one particular company as opposed to 2 or 3. We have spoken to all the bidders on this, and they have said that they've assured us that there are backup plans that they have in place in case that a truck breaks down or if they're short of staff. So they realize the responsibility of this particular contract, and we have worked with this contractor before very successfully.
Okay, so that's fair enough. Just thought I should bring that up.
Any further discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Direction item, I-913. May I have a mover and seconder for the direction? Councillor Keith, Councillor Horn. The council received the report on the successful audit for the Town of Parry Sound DWQMS version 2 for information only. Discussion. All in favor? Oh, Councillor Keith then?
It was just more of a comment. It seems like there was a lot of work done here by all the staff, and I think that's a really great thing to see. And certainly in the report, it indicated that this kind of work isn't always done by a municipality's local staff. So I think that just shows the quality of workmanship that we are getting here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's good to see a good report. So our commendments to staff, Mr. Brown. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 921. Moved by Councillor Backman, second by Councillor Horn. The council adopts the local services policy for the Town of Parry Sound as per attached Schedule A, and that resolution 2006-71 be rescinded. Discussion. Councillor Borneman.
Wondering if Mr. Algie can give us the Coles Notes version for the public of this.
He's going to actually give us a presentation.
That's a fantastic question. So since this is a little bit outside of the normal day-to-day business that we do, staff thought it'd be a good idea to do a pretty short presentation and give an example of what a local service policy is. So this all came about when we're doing research for development charges, which their province is currently reviewing, but this was one thing we learned, that local services are different than development charges. These are the services that a site requires. For instance, if off-site new sidewalks are needed, water, sewer pipes, it's anything internal or external to the development that development needs in order to succeed. So for instance, if a big condo had roads like the top left with potholes, maybe it'd be time for new roads. Open ditches, you might want to look at storm systems, traffic lights, street lights, or bike lanes. I think everyone gets the idea that it's off-site improvements which the development needs in order to proceed. So these are not collectible by development charges. In short, development charges are usually for the long-term growth of the community. So A new development might, at the building permit time, pay a fee which goes into a library reserve, and then when that population gets up to a certain level, you could expand the library, or that could be the same as a water sewer plant. A local service policy focuses on the immediate needs of a development. So for instance, if it needed an 8-inch water pipe and there's only 4 in the road, it would have to be upgraded. So they need that in order to proceed. This also links to the municipality's strategic plan under municipal governance and organizational excellence. So I gave an example here of what one would be. So the area in red is a fictitious subdivision. So all those lots are being proposed. Before those lots can be proposed, you can see the blue line here. That could be water and sewer lines. They would either have to be upsized or installed by the developer in order to get to these ones which are internal to the development. So both the blue line and the green line both represent internal services, local services, just one's external, one's internal to the development. And without them, the development can't proceed essentially because you'd have lots of no water, no sewer. The question is who pays? Typically, developers pay for local services. They benefit from the project, so it makes sense that they pay for it, risk reward. The general principle of this document we're looking for is to establish the rules and responsibilities, so when people come in, we can hand them this document. It's only a couple pages long, and they understand it. There is a section which does allow for the consideration exemptions or cost sharing, but it states the rules so developers will be aware of what is expected of them, not just, well, we don't want to, it's, well, what is the greater good to the community and to Parry Sound? And I think it would be good to have. It's kind of a key piece of policy that we should have in our inventory. And that's, told you it's a short presentation.
Great, thank you. Councillor Borneman.
Mr. Elgin, does this, obviously this is for new projects, would it apply to existing situations?
Through your worship, the only time I could see that happening is if there was a change or an expansion going on at an existing project. If it was status quo, this wouldn't really apply.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Keith?
I am just thinking, I have relatives in California, and it seems to me they've advised me some time ago that when there's developments, and I'm wondering if that's a local service policy, when a new development is created, they also build the sidewalk to continue with whatever sidewalk is on that street. So would that possibility be when they're required to build a sidewalk, which is in front of whatever their development is that not more like a local service policy because that's outside of your development? Is that the same sort of concept?
Through your worship, I'm not positive, but I think this would help with that. Without it, you wouldn't have much chance at all. If any other staff can think of what else that could be more specifically, feel free to chime in, but I think this could be somewhat related, but I'm not positive.
Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2019-6967, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2017-6723, as amended by bylaw 2018-6843 to require site plan control pursuant to section 41 of the Planning Act, and considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor McCann, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Move Moved by Councillor Keith, second by Councillor Backman. The council waive any application fees related to a site plan control application which apply to section 4.3 of the bylaw 2017-6723 as amended, and the general intent of section 4.3 and council is to beautify the streetscape by reducing the amount of parking spaces in the front yard, clearly defining driveways, revegetating, and maintaining green space. Discussion. Councillor Keith.
Yes, I had a question in respect to the site plan. Mr. Algie, I can appreciate wanting to have the parking on the side or in the back if you're intensifying that property more. What I am wondering about also, though, in doing that, will that conflict, or is at all with, if the parking is on the side, would a person then be able to park a very large vehicle and therefore basically leave it there so it's blocking the view of the next door neighbor?
Through your worship, in certain cases that could occur, implementation of this, or I would think staff's implementation of this type of policy, though, would be trying to go what's best for the streetscape and neighbors as well. So it would be a case-by-case basis. It would be essentially a policy would say what functions well, and we would, in those situations, we'd be trying to go for that. If there's not enough room in a side yard, we wouldn't recommend putting parking there, though.
Any further questions, comments? No? All in favor? And that's carried. So, moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Horn that bylaw number 2019-6968, being a bylaw to permit the Parry Sound Area Planning Board to issue a certificate of validation for 61 and 63 William Street, Carbonan, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Horn that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor Horn.
Thank you. Mr. Algie, we had this discussion at the Parry Sound Area Planning Board last week, and it's one of the first times that I've heard of this particular certificate. Could you explain to the public what the certificate of validation is?
Through your worship, certainly. Essentially, this certificate is to correct a mistake that occurred during a property transaction. Section 50 of the Planning Act is quite complicated, and in this case, properties were put in the same name, they merged, then what was one lot was sold illegally or in breach of the Planning Act, and then afterwards they found out that they actually bought something that they didn't exist, so this certificate corrects that in retrospect.
Wow. Any further questions, comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Backman, second by Councillor Horn, the bylaw number 2019-6969, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2004-4653, the zoning bylaw to amend 1416 William Street, Henry, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? And that's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Backman and seconded by Councillor Horn that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor McCann?
Again, for Mr. Algie, could you tell us then what this is about?
Through your worship, this is an application to permit 5 dwelling units within the existing structure on 1416 William Street. Right now, there's a vacant commercial unit that they've had difficulty renting. So this would allow for all the uses in the C1 zone, preserving the integrity of the official plan, but in the meantime allowing for residential uses. So they're getting the best of both worlds essentially.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments? No? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor McCann, seconded by Councillor Burden, that bylaw number 2019-6970, being a bylaw to amend the sign bylaw, add blade sign type, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? Carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Burden, seconded by Councillor McCann, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read the second and third time passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh. Oh, okay.
Since Mr. Esty is here, I think just the information for the public and just to inform them what exactly a blade sign is. I think some people might not know what that is.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. At our last council meeting, we had a presentation from the Downtown Business Association, and they showed some slides of an image of signs that are essentially perpendicular to the building. For years, we've had bylaws that permitted signs to be parallel to the building and attached to the building face. The intention of this is to change the look of the downtown, hopefully for the better. And one of the things about it, you will see downtown that there are some large signs now that are perpendicular to the faces of the building, trying to attract customers by being large and in your face. The goal of the Downtown Business Association, if I can speak for them, is to have smaller, more modest signs and change the look of the downtown. Maybe make it look less flash and dazzle and a little more small town and polite, maybe, if I can choose those words. So that's the, and the DBA is running a program. They've got funding. I don't know exactly how their program will work, but the intention is that our bylaw will allow people who have big, overwhelming projecting signs, remove them and replace them with blade signs, and we'll issue a permit for that, but we won't charge any permit fee for them for the term of the program.
Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Esty. So I know that we had a presentation here a couple of weeks ago, and it seems to me through the DBA that this has been well received. Has there been any opposition to this this initiative moving forward from some of the business owners downtown? Just curious.
Through you, Your Worship, I really don't know. I'm the guy who writes bylaws. It's been the DBA who's been doing all the negotiating with all the people and whatnot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Keith.
One thing I've been thinking about in reference to these blade signs, and basically they're all about the very same size, but in the location when they are hung, are they all required to be hung exactly at the same height? My concern, I'll tell you what is that if they're all hung at the same height and they're all basically the same size, then how can you walk down the street and see what's 3 signs ahead? I'm having a problem with that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is, I like the word fun. This is a fun part of trying to regulate things like this and make them functional. There are always issues of visibility. However, these signs are going to be relatively small, projecting from the face of the building maybe a meter or so, 36 inches. And if you're on a sidewalk that's 8 or 10 feet wide downtown, it's really quite easy to change your perspective. If you stand out near the curb, you can see virtually all of them. And the same thing will happen with respect to height. They're all designed to be at the same height. So, and generally that'll be around 9 feet off the sidewalk level. So if you're a relatively ordinary person, 5'6", 6 feet tall, you're actually looking upwards a little bit at these signs. So depending on how far away it is, your perspective changes for all of them, and you should actually be able to see all of them if they're at a uniform height.
Mr. Harris?
Through the mayor to Councillor McCann's question, our understanding is they're not going to be forcing businesses to change signs. There's a fee that's referred to in the bylaw, and it's waived, I think, for the next 2 years as a way of encouraging the blade signs. Do it now, there's not a fee. If you wait till after that date, then there's a charge. And they're providing the signs free of charge as long as their funding, the DVA's funding lasts. So there's an incentive to do it now, but it's not being forced.
Councillor McCann?
So not to be argumentative in any way, shape, or form, but I like things that are different, and I just wonder if some who are sight challenged are going to have a bit of difficulty in seeing some of the signage. I'm not here to try to change the world tonight, but I've never had a problem with hanging signs or different colored signs, small ones, big ones. I think variety makes for an interesting downtown, but that's my opinion.
Anything further? I have noticed Mr. Este out in the afternoon sometimes, taking measurements and with a stick and doing different things or whatever on the street. So he's been doing his lining up and measurements and that sort of thing as to how things might be. So you were noticed. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2019-6971, being a bylaw to amend Table C of bylaw 2005-4847, the building bylaw, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor McCann. The bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time. Discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Burden, second by Councillor McCann, the bylaw number 2019-6972, being a bylaw to confirm the proceeding of council, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Burden, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? And that's carried. So, prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next regular meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, October 15th, 2019 at 7 p.m. and will be held in the council chambers on the top floor of 52 Seguin Street. Public access to the building is off Gibson Street. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. Regular and special meetings are now live streamed. Please check news and public notices on our website at www.parrysound.ca for instructions to watch live or to see earlier council meetings. Agendas, changes to the council meeting schedule, and notices of special council meetings will be posted on the town's website at www.parrysound.ca under news and public notices prior to a council meeting. The public is available to view an electronic copy of the complete agenda with attachments on the town's website. Just search council calendar and the date of the meeting. Should you wish to receive the combined agenda via email, you may make that request on our website or contact the clerk at the municipal office. The minutes of the council meetings will be posted within 2 days after the council meeting on the town's website. Your TV will continue to air the regular Parry Sound Council meetings on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meeting. For Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.